I started off the other interview by asking Aaron if he was excited about 999 so he could finally tell the life story of Herman Cain. And he gave me the look like that. I've never ever heard of that popular person from 4 years ago. So I'm wondering what it was like for you to star in the biopic of Herman Cain.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I had an amazing time.
All I've ever wanted is to make a Herman Cain joke work.
Yeah.
4 years I've waited.
Yeah.
Well,
Boom.
finally. Franco's a really interesting character. He's called a acting chameleon in this film. Why do you think he's so effective in manipulating his fellow officers?
He's been doing it for a long time. I mean, there's certain practices that are cultural within the department that more or less become institutionalized. So even if you remove the head of the organization, you still have all the trickle-down effect, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention my former military background and learning that teamwork and those maneuvers that we had to do out there and the things I had to go through. You bring it home and you try to find that adrenaline rush here back in the States.
Yeah. One thing that was interesting about the film is that almost all governmental forces seem to be military in nature. There's a few paramedics, but there's no civil leaders. There's no, librarians in this film. Do you think that's a way a lot of people see America, as a kind of militarized place?
Well, that's part of, I think, the message is we've become militarized. It's been happening for a few years now. And you hear all the people complaining. You see it on the news. You see all these this surplus of weapons and vehicles that are left over from the war that are now
budgeted now into police departments.
You just got to give them away. I mean, either that or they'll take them in the Middle East.
A lot of gunplay in this movie. How do you prepare for something like that? How do you give reality to something, shooting a gun, which you have to pretend to do for 12 hours straight?
Well, I'm Mexican.
I'm not going to take that. I covered race for Comicbook.com. I'm not going to take simple answers.
It's the truth.
All right. Well, if you're Mexican, you're telling the truth. Of course, you're Mexican.
My grandma and grandpa had guns in their purse. My grandma had a gun in her purse. My grandpa was going to do a show in Wilcox for Rex Allen Days, and he had just beaten cancer for the first time, and he wanted to take a road trip. And I found out they both had their guns. I'm like, what do you like? Grandma and Grandpa, Bonnie and Clyde? You want to drive? Like, what are you going to rob you? It's like, no, I got to be prepared. I'm like, okay, Grandpa, just go. My grandma and Grandpa.
I think if your grandpa had a purse, he probably needed a gun for the people who'd make fun of him for having a purse.
Oh, they're not going to make fun of Grandpa.
All
He's
right.
respected. Yeah.
All right. So, what's your comic book about? If they make a story about your life, what's the tale? What do you do every day? What's the 22 pages a month of your action?
Chameleon.
So you change color based on what you're standing in front of.
You just don't know whose story you're following in the book. Every 22
So
pages.
you just take other people's comics and just take out 4 pages and staple them together?
No, that would be plagiarizing.
I could call it an omnibus.
Okay. You got what you want.
All right. If that does end up happening, I know what site's going to cover it. Comicbook.com.
Reach out.
Thanks for your time.
Love it.
Herman
Hey,
Cain.
brother. Herman Cain.